All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to be once again in the 147-pound division, but this time talking about something that Shawn Porter, the former WBC and the former IBF world champion, had to say about the Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight. And man, there's a lot of people jumping back and forth about their predictions on this fight. And this one seems like it's another time that this is taking place. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be reviewing what Shawn Showtime Porter had to say about the Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight. And let me tell you, man, the closer we get to this fight, the more people keep switching up what they say and what they think is going to happen in this fight. You got guys like Tim Bradley who didn't completely switch up, but actually he did switch up, who was so certain that Errol would never take the fight and that Terrence Crawford was going to destroy him. Switches up, and then all of a sudden, he's worried about the judges and the pressure style of Errol Spence Jr. Being a real big problem for Terrence, and the judges giving the fight to the cash cow and all of that. Now you got Shawn Porter, who says something pretty interesting about who he would bet on. Now, before I get into the details of it, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button if you like the video. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the video, or rather sorry, my son is in the background. We're on a business trip, on a basketball trip. Hit the bell icon, which will notify you when we make more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support for the channel. It really is what makes the channel go. Thank you very much. And thank you specifically to the people like Matty Yole and Mr. Pragmatic and Barbara D, who were in the super thanks in the last video, sponsoring that video. So thank you very, very much for your support. If I miss somebody else, I'll make sure I'll get you on the next video. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you real fast about today's sponsor, the Boxing Showtime app. It's a very useful app that keeps you updated on all things boxing, and you can keep up with the latest fights, where to watch them, the latest news, and a lot more. For any hardcore boxing fan like myself, and most likely all of y'all, I would definitely recommend downloading it. And it also is most definitely a big support to the channel. It's available for both Apple and Android, and you can find the link in the description below. Thanks for considering downloading Boxing Showtime's app. But let's get back into the subject matter of the video. When I say people are switching up, either they're switching up what they think about the fight, or switching up who they're predicting wins the fight, or advice to boxing fans about who to bet on the fight. I don't necessarily think that means that they're a bad person or that they're being dishonest or anything like that. I just think that, when you have like a fight like this that is this big and is this, I think it's an important fight from the standpoint of really, who the best fighter is in the sport of boxing. Errol says that he thinks that the winner of this fight will definitely be the best fighter in boxing. Terrence Crawford went a step further and said that if he wins this fight, that would mean that we are in the Terrence Crawford era of boxing, which, hey man, you can convince yourself of a lot of things. I don't know how Canelo Alvarez works for you now. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. It is a significant fight. So Shawn Porter was on his podcast, the Porter Way podcast, and he was interviewing the comedian Earthquake. Very funny, very, very funny comedian. I'm sure you guys know who he is. And he was talking about, if you had to bet your money, or the moderator, whose name, please forgive me for not recalling at the moment, was asked him, who would you bet on? Earthquake said, I don't bet. Once I get my money from the white man, I don't give it back. Right, kind of the way I feel like as soon as I get my paid my money, man, I'm not trying to give it back up to nobody on no bet. But Shawn Porter said, look, if I had to, and I may have the audio in the video when it's finally produced, but he basically said that if I had to bet or tell somebody to bet, I would bet on the style of Errol Spence, because Errol Spence Jr. is a pressure fighter. He's a come forward fighter. Even though I don't think he's strictly a come forward fighter, but he's a pressure fighter. And Shawn Porter said, that's my style. That's how I fought. So, that's the style that I like. Also, if you go back to what Tim Bradley had said about fights in Vegas and people where there's somebody's putting a lot of pressure on in the fight and coming forward and throwing more punches, that the judges tend to score more for the aggressive fighter. So that is where if Shawn Porter would say, that's why Shawn Porter would say, if I had to tell somebody to bet, I would say bet my money on Errol. However, he did not speak in a manner which would tell you that he thought it was some kind of blowout or there was no real chance that Terence Crawford could win the fight. He talked about how Terence Crawford has whipping power, which is kind of a buzzword now going around, whipping power. One was shots that if you don't see, they can hurt you. How he punches in between punches, and he believed that that's where Terence Crawford is going to have the most success, punching in between punches. That he also moves his feet and be able to keep Errol off balance, right? So he talked about a lot of things that he believed Terence Crawford can do to Errol that would help Errol win the fight. But at the end of the day, he said, look, if I had to put my money on it, though, I would go with Errol Spence because of the style, because of his pressure. And here's the thing for me is it's the punching in between punches and keeping Errol Spence Jr. off balance, where I think that Terence Crawford is going to have some difficulty with. First, Errol Spence Jr. is a very tight puncher. Right now, also, this is where Shawn Porter had some success with Errol in punching in between punches, right? Shawn Porter is somebody that has been in the ring with both Errol and Terence. And Terence had success punching in between Shawn Porter's punches. And also, Terence Crawford had kept Shawn Porter a little bit off balance, obviously, because he got knocked out leaning way over, jumping in with his head over his front foot and got hit, right? And got knocked down 2 times. So those were definitely keys to success for Terence Crawford against Shawn Porter. Errol Spence Jr., though, is not somebody that typically gets off balance. He's somebody that, because he's so fundamentally sound, is somebody that stays on balance. Also, his punches are a lot tighter than Shawn. Errol had a lot of success punching in between Shawn Porter's punches as well, because Shawn Porter is not quite as fundamentally sound, a little bit more wild with his punches than Errol is, and that's where Errol wound up not dropping Shawn Porter in, I do believe it was the 11th round of that fight, where they think they were both throwing, and Errol came in with a much tighter left hook than Shawn Porter's right hook, which I think was coming from over the top, that did not wind up getting there because Errol had wound up knocking him down. So, it's just interesting to hear Shawn Porter say that, because, he obviously has experience with both of these guys in the ring. Definitely knows his boxing. But when you tell somebody at the end of the day to bet on somebody, like if I had to tell you to bet, I would say bet on this. That tells you what he really thinks. That tells you what the most likely outcome is. And that's what I've always said about the fight. Not, despite what, Terence Crawford getting upset about what I have to say. That's what I've always said. It's like pressure bust pipes, and somebody that is more active, somebody that's very accurate, very active, somebody that goes to the body, right, and is able to attack the body in an efficient manner. I may go with those guys, and I would say bet on that guy, because if you're just waiting for a flash knockout, right? Don't bet on flash knockouts unless you're talking about somebody like Deontay Wilder. And you know what the level of opposition is. Still, even in that scenario, you don't know when that's going to happen. With Deontay Wilder, you pretty much know that's going to happen because he just has, it's not whip power. It's knock you flat out unconscious, eyes open, but you don't see nothing type of power, which is different, right, than what Terence Crawford has, where Terence Crawford is catching you. Some of these guys aren't even really going down, and they kind of wobble back, and he stops it more like with a Oscar De La Hoya type of stoppage. But if that's obviously a dated reference, you'd have to have seen Oscar De La Hoya fight and realize that he got a lot of knockouts the same way Terence Crawford does. But when he got in there with guys that were at a higher level, a lot of those knockouts stopped happening. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.